Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Money Down Pod, and we've got a big show in store for you guys tonight as the NFL is absolutely popping off right now. That is Shawn White. I am Kayvon and Shawn. Follow us on Twitter at Money Down Pod. Follow Shawn himself at Dumpster Fire Fan, myself at Kayvon_sports. And ladies and gentlemen, we have a ton going on. Nagy out, Zimmer out, Flores out. Fangio out. Joe Judge recently, a couple of hours ago, out. Urban Meyer's been out. John Gruden's been out. And a couple of GMs are out as well. And this is Black Monday at its finest. And things have happened in time, just like we thought they would. We will get into everything that happened on Sunday. Sunday was one of the craziest finishes. The NFL and Roger Goodell could not be more happy. NBC could not be more happy with the game they had at the finale. Everything went great. Would you agree, Shawn?
Oh, yeah. That was one of the best weeks of NFL football just ever. And the games, the way it happened. It started with that early upset, Jags-Colts, that set it all in motion. After that, it was completely bananas the rest of the day.
It was incredible. The NFL was extremely happy about that, as we were as viewers and fans. We will get into all the games, but we have to start with Black Monday and what is happening and what we see every single year. Look, Shawn, there are some right off the bat. There are some ones that we knew this was coming. Like you started to hear a little bit of rumor towards the end that maybe the Bears would do a 180 and actually retain Matt Nagy, but then that ended very quickly. Matt Nagy is out just like we thought. A lot of people were worried Ryan Pace might get a chance. He is out as well. That's very good for Bears fans. I know they're happy about that. Zimmer was, he was on the borderline, but after they lost those last 3 games and didn't get in, I'm pretty sure everyone felt he was going to be out too. That ended up happening. Fangio was out. We'll get into this, but the fact that this man is not going for it on 4th down and kicking a field goal in Chiefs territory, like, that just Joe Judge is out, and that had to happen. QB sneaking, and I understand Joe Judge had a terrible quarterback the last 8 games in what the 2 backups that he was playing, and Fromm and the homeboy from NC State that I can't think of his name, who's just not good at
Glennon, the tank commander.
Not
Glennon,
good
yeah.
at all. He's out. Urban's been out. We get it. So those are the ones that we kind of. Maybe you could say Joe Judge was a bit of a surprise, but honestly, with the way he's handled things at the end, to me, it's not a surprise. The biggest surprise is Brian Flores, and that's where I want to start. Because I'm not going to say, this might sound hyperbolic, but it's not when I say this. Shawn, the Dolphins are going to regret this decision for the next 10 plus years. They will regret. I don't care if they get Jim Harbaugh. They're not going to get Jim Harbaugh, by the way, but I don't care if they did. They're going to regret this decision for the next 10 plus years. You do not fire a guy who wins 3 out of the last 4 games against Bill Belichick. Do you know how hard that is? You don't fire a guy who knows how to beat Bill Belichick. You don't fire a guy who can go 1-7 to start the season, and the team and the players still believe in him so much that they're able to turn around and go on a 7-game win streak. You do not fire that type of guy. I don't care how strong of a leader or a dictator he is or whatever we hear coming out. The Dolphins and Stephen Ross will regret this from years on in. That blew my mind. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, that was crazy to me. I mean, obviously there was a power struggle that I'll get into, but that was just insanity. When I saw that news, that was the big shocker, in my opinion, out of all this. Brian Flores wins games, but it obviously came down to his relationship with Tua and the GM. And that's a dangerous spot when you're picking Tua and a GM over a coach that can coach the way Flores does. But I mean, let's be honest, it is the Dolphins. I'm a fan of the Jags. We're a dumpster fire. The Dolphins have been like the Jags for 20-some, 30-some years now. I mean, since Marino retired, they haven't got it right in a lot of ways. And it's not going to get any better with decisions like this. It came down to Tua seemingly not having Flores' back, really, and Flores not having Tua's back. came down to the GM believing more into Tua than I guess the head coach did. And that's where they're going forward. We're going to see who can who's going to be the winner out of this, whether it be Flores a new spot or whether Greer and Tua can get it going in Miami. But I feel like that's kind of a long shot there. It's going to be interesting to watch. It's going to be interesting to see who takes that job because it's not going to be Harbaugh, like we said. Harbaugh is either posturing right now to get back at Michigan, or I think he goes to the Raiders. It's one of the two. That's my opinion on the Harbaugh situation. I mean, who are you going to get? Are you going to get Daboll? Daboll's used to having that strong arm rocket quarterback. That isn't Tua. He's not a death by 1,000 paper cuts type player. They throw downfield. It's going to be strange to see. I don't really know who you pair there. Obviously, the GM has a ton of power, so you're going to have to work under him. It's going to be a strange situation going forward, and I think Dolphins fans will end up being very upset with this decision, and Flores is going to thrive somewhere else, in my opinion.
Oh, he's going to be – to me, he's now the number one candidate or the number 1, 2, 3 candidate on the market now. I think he is by far one of the biggest – look, listen, he didn't make the playoffs, but let's understand, that team has some talent. It's not that good of a football team. That's why it's shocking. Chris Greer clearly has a very good relationship with Stephen Ross, and Stephen Ross clearly really liked Tua, and that's the whole thing right there. Chris Greer and Ross like Tua, and Flores, who, by the way, is probably the right one in this situation, didn't like Tua. But again, that division, every single team in that division has been searching for a head coach that can go toe-to-toe with the big bad bully in Bill Belichick. And Brian Flores has done that better than any coach we have seen in that division. Now, even Sean McDermott, like, he's having some recent success because he has Josh Allen, but they've still been a disaster against Bill Belichick for the most part. Sean McDermott has gone into New England and beaten Bill Belichick. He has beaten Bill Belichick when Tom Brady was there, and all the Patriots had to do was win that game, and they become the number 2 seed, and they get a whole playoff game and a bye. This is back before we changed to one team. If you remember this, Sean, he went in there and beat them. They ended up not getting the bye. The Chiefs did. Brady went on the road, or Brady lost the first game to the Titans, and that was his last game ever played. Brian Flores literally knocked Brady out of New England. Like, you do not fire someone like that. It's just, and it would be one thing if it was like, okay, this guy's standing up for a GM like Mickey Loomis that has a track record like no other. Whether we think, there's a lot of debate me and you like to have of who's actually making those picks in New Orleans. Mickey Loomis has been making great picks, or that front office, forever. Chris Greer has been there for 6 years, 6 drafts. Not one player he's drafted in the first round or in the first 3 rounds that are still on that team have made a Pro Bowl. Like, the guy hasn't been able to draft well, and you're sticking with that guy over a proven head coach that can win with lesser talent because they don't have that much talent. To me, man, it is by far the big. I can't overstate how bad I feel for Dolphins fans, because it finally looked like they were getting things going, even with a mediocre to average quarterback, which is what Tua is right now. He might become better. He still has time. He still has young. He definitely could, but right now he's not great. I just can't get over that. I can't believe he did that. And real quick on the John Harbaugh thing, he's not getting John Harbaugh because Stephen Ross pays John Harbaugh's salary. Like, let's understand, Stephen Ross went to Michigan. He is a Michigan alum. He is one of the people that pay John Harbaugh the big money. That's coming from Ross's pocket. And if you listen to his press conference, he said, I'm heavily invested in Harbaugh at Michigan, which means his money is in Harbaugh's contract, so he's not going to go and steal him from Michigan. He's just not going to do that. Like, I'm with you. Harbaugh's either staying at Michigan or he's going to the Raiders. I don't see how you can bring in anybody that should make Dolphins fans feel happy.
Yeah, I really don't, unless, like I said, it's got to be an offensive genius if you're going to do it. But I really, with the choices out there, I mean, we got the whole fire Balky situation in Jacksonville, but if you're going to pick quarterbacks, you're going to take Trevor, or you're going to take Tua. You obviously take Lawrence. You got Fields and Tua out there. Fields has the more talented, quarterback there. You're taking Fields right there. I mean, yeah, Tua might be a little better than what the Giants have, but the Giants have 2 picks this year. They could easily figure something out, and then you have the runway now because the Mars don't like to fire coaches like they just did. So you have a runway now where even if next year you don't get your guy, the year after you can go and have patience and find your guy.
Yeah.
I mean, really, this Dolphins job is looking less desirable just when you have a power mad GM. That's what's making the Jags job look so undesirable right now is that Balky's in place there. Nobody wants to work with him. I don't know exactly who's going to want to go work with a Chris Greer like that. You mentioned the Saints that we have an argument about, kind of. That's actually a good thing. The Saints do it how they're supposed to. You're supposed to have a GM to where you're like, wow, did Peyton make that pick or did Loomis? And then it's like, well, maybe Loomis and him just are so keyed in on each other's relationship, they both agreed on it. And then it turns into what it does on the field with how they pick things. That's kind of what you want, and you don't want a big power struggle like you see going on in these 2 Florida teams. It's going to be interesting to see. I really don't see Dayball. Dayball likes to chuck the ball downfield. I don't see that at all. I know they're interviewing him. It's going to have to be one of those death by 1,000 paper cut coaches, and I'm not even sure who's out there that can do that because I don't see Peterson wanting to take the job there. I don't see Kellen Moore wanting to go there. I mean, you have so many more other options. It's going to be interesting. They're going to need an offensive guy clearly, or either someone – has a good offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
But look, Tua's also going to go into about his 4th offensive coordinator next year now. It's chaos down there for him. It's a strange situation. I would not have fired Brian Flores. I want to ask you, where do you think Flores is going to go after this? Because you mentioned he's the number 1 candidate. I think he's the number 1 candidate for anywhere outside of Chicago or Jacksonville.
Yes,
because they both need offensive guys for their young quarterbacks.
Yeah, no, I'm glad that you clarified that because that's my point as well. I think Jacksonville and Chicago do have to, even though I do think Flores' mentality fits Chicago's style, just like the city. I think Flores fits that very well, but I think it would be smarter to go with a offensive coach like a Dable or someone for Fields. But I do think it fits him very well. If he could bring in an offensive guy to go with him, I could see that. I think he'd be great in Denver. I think he'd be really good in Denver. If I was Denver, I would definitely be peeking around, seeing if there's something there for him. And I think he'd be awesome in New York. I think the Giants would be a home run hit for him and for the Giants because like his attitude. I mean, he's tough, but so was Tom Coughlin. Like, they've dealt with a guy kind of like that. Tom Coughlin was a stubborn man, and what we're hearing is maybe that's kind of like Flores is. So I think New York would probably be the best place that I would say. But let me throw this at you here, Shawn. The rumor is Deshaun Watson now it's out. The reason why Deshaun Watson wanted to go to Miami so bad was because he has a great relationship with Flores. That's what we're hearing now. Flores was the guy. So some teams, maybe like New York, could use that as a way to lure Deshaun Watson. Or is it possible that Houston decides to fire their guy after 1 year, try and hire Flores to see if Deshaun would be willing to stay? Now, I don't think that would be I think Deshaun's out. I think everything with the city, I think it would be too far. I think it's already done. But do you think that could be a possibility? And if I'm Houston, I'm rolling. I'm curious. Like, I am rolling the railroad tracks around, asking questions around to see if that's a possibility. Because from what we're hearing, dude, Flores and Watson have a very strong connection.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I think that Giants one makes a lot of sense there, the way you postured that. I'd also seen the little Houston thing.
Yeah.
I don't think that's gonna happen. Honestly, you hate to go out and call somebody out. I don't know if their owner would take Flores, and we all kind of know the underlying rumors there.
That's a good point. That's a very good point.
And I know Coley is like, but you honestly, everyone kind of thought this was a 1 year Cully thing anyway, if we're being honest about it. So this could have been a little throw off the scent type thing. I mean, the thing is, Flores did work with Caserio and Easterby. That's the thing you got to think about with the Texans. But I think Deshaun's got to go at this point after sitting out a year. And I mean, I think they like what they have in Davis Mills, honestly, and he's on that rookie contract.
Yeah.
They can try to build around him, and they'll have the picks from the Deshaun trade to where if they don't like him next year, they can go get one of the quarterbacks the year after. So I think they do have a plan in place there. You're right on the Giants thing. That would be smart. I want to throw this one at you.
Yeah.
I think he'd be really good in Minnesota.
Ooh.
Minnesota had an issue on defense, even though Zimmer's a defensive guy.
Yeah.
And he's sick, and him and everyone is sick of Kirk Cousins. They actually fired Spielman, and Spielman's actually a really good drafter.
Yeah.
So they got rid of Spielman too. Flores can bring in the guy that he wants at GM, and I think Minnesota's owner would be willing a little bit to trade for Deshaun. And I think Deshaun with that offense would be high-powered enough. And then Flores can kind of fix the defense without having to really put much draft capital or free agent capital into the defense because a lot of those guys were injured. I think they come back, play his scheme well. He'll find some corners deep in the draft. They could trade their picks from this next year or year after, whatever they want to do. Get Deshaun. He'll be throwing to Justin Jefferson. He'll be throwing to KJ Osborne. He'll have Conklin out there and Dalvin Cook behind him. I think they're ready-made to really make a run there.
Bro, that's fascinating. I have not heard that yet. That is fascinating. Because we all know with the Vikings, unless something changes this offseason where Aaron Rodgers leaves, you're not winning. First of all, you're not winning the NFC North, and you're sure as hell not winning a Super Bowl or even making it to a conference title game with Kirk Cousins. Like it's just not happening. They're sick and tired, like you said, of just the same old year. They have way too many weapons. That's a really interesting point right there, where I think that they have enough where they could make that happen, bro. I would actually like to see that happen. And I think Deshaun would look real good in that purple jersey with Justin Jefferson and Thielen and Cook. That's a good call right there. That's one that I like.
Yeah, not only that, like they'd be able to trade the draft capital or whatnot, but even with the contract and it's ending here soon, Kirk Cousins would still be desirable with what the quarterback market is this year, next year. So I actually think that made a lot of sense. That was the first place I thought about for Flores, and then all the stuff about Flores and Deshaun being linked. So that's where I kind of pieced that together. So that's not getting talked about much, but I actually think that's like a really good fit for them as well. You could say the same thing about what you said with Denver, though. Denver could do the same thing in reality. Denver could also trade for Deshaun if they really wanted to, or trade for whatever. And that defense was already ready-made for a Flores to come in and take over. Fangio had the defense running anyway. It was a quarterback issue there. So that's kind of where I was at on that. You want to go over some of these openings and say maybe best fit kind of place real quick?
Yeah, that's what I was actually going to ask you just first really quick. Taking Flores out, taking all the coaches out, where do you think is just the best opening right now? Like if you're a head coach or if you're an agent trying to get your head coach to a place that's most successful, what do you think is the best opening right now?
I'd probably have to go with the Raiders look good, to be honest. But I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know if they fire Bisaccia. I think they might hire him.
If they win a playoff game, I don't see how you do.
It's like we were talking about with Harbaugh. It's either he's staying at Michigan or he's going to the Raiders. I also think the Raiders are down to they either promote Bisaccia or they hire Jim Harbaugh. I think that's kind of the either or there between the two.
I agree.
But obviously the Raiders they're already in the playoffs. You have Derek Carr. They're going to have to extend Derek Carr. That's one low-key thing that nobody's really talking about. His contract's up. But I think they obviously have a playoff level roster. They're going to need some receiver help, obviously, on the outside now, thanks to the Henry Ruggs situation.
Yeah.
I think that's a top place. I do think Chicago and Jacksonville fall in this weird spot that they're kind of up there at the next two. It depends on how much you believe in Fields and Lawrence. Obviously, Lawrence is well believed in. Balky's the one holding that back. I can talk about that right quick. The rumor is Balky is down to being able to hire O'Brien or Bevel, which would be a disaster for Jacksonville. No one wants that. No one in the league wants that. That's the only two that's going to agree to go with Balky, though. So the thing is, Balky would end up getting fired if the candidate that Schott or Tony or any of the top people want will refuse to go with Balky, which everyone has so far. So I would look to Leftwich or Peterson being the choice there because they had good interviews apparently. I would look to them being the hire, and then Balky would be fired. But that job opening is all about whether or not you can deal with Balky or not, or whether he can go. Because Trevor Lawrence, obviously we saw it with the last game that we'll talk to later in the show. He's ready. He's ready to go. He's going to be a great quarterback for you. If you feel like you can build around him, you have the number 1 pick. So I think that's a good opening as long as Balky's gone. I also think Chicago is probably the next best opening because you do have Fields, which has showed some stuff out there. He can play. And then you'll have complete control with you and a new GM coming in. So you have that. The last one that's interesting, in my opinion, is the Broncos.
Yeah.
That's an interesting one. You don't have a quarterback there. That's the one thing. And you'd really have to buy into those Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson rumors if you want to go there, because you're in that no man's land again where you're picking deeper and deeper in the draft and you don't know what quarterback you're going to have. That's the one issue with Denver. That's kind of how I rank them. I honestly think Miami's probably last, if we're being honest.
Yep.
Or maybe even New York. But the thing with New York is you're going to get patience now. You're going to get patience now. You're going to be able to kind of do what you want. Those
you
are
have two top 10 picks. You have two top 10 picks.
So how would you rank them out? That's kind of where I would put them. Minnesota's there in the middle because you have Kirk Cousins, but then again, he's on the expiring end of the deal. I think, like I said, I think that's a perfect place for a Flores to go, try to get a Deshaun trade, try to get a quarterback trade, and just hit the ground running there.
Yeah, Miami's last for mine. Miami's definitely last, and that's why I think, and not to just hype on, but that's why I think Denver could be the best. I'm not ranking it the best, but I think if they get the higher right, if they do get a Flores, or if they do get the higher right, I think it could be really good, even if they don't get Russell or Rodgers. Eventually, they're going to have to get something with the quarterback there. But my point is, Flores just won down in Miami with way less talent. Like that, Miami's roster is not what Denver's roster is. And yeah, Tua's better than Drew Lock, Tua and Teddy. I mean, honestly, I would probably put Tua, his upside's obviously better, but I think that you could still have success early. My number 1 job, though, on the market would probably be Jacksonville because of the cap space, because of Trevor Lawrence, but Balky's got to be out. Shawn, this is how much I mean this. If Balky is there, I take that number 1 and I move it behind Miami. It sounds like I'm being drastic here. I put you guys as the last if Balky is there.
I completely agree.
Because I just can't trust anything that happens there of who's making the decisions, how much power the coach has, what's going to happen with Trevor. Balky's got to be gone. He's got to be gone. But if he is gone, you guys have a great situation. So I think I would put you and Denver up there. I do really like Denver's situation. So you and Denver would be up there. Chicago would be second. The problem with Chicago, man, their ownership's got issues, dude. I don't know if you heard that they came out and had this conversation. There's just something going on up there that's just they're cheap. First of all, they're really cheap. They're supposedly they run like a cheap organization and all that stuff. But I trust Fields. I liked Fields before. I like Fields now. I still think they have some really good pieces on defense. I think they have some good young pieces on offense. Denver, so it would be Jacksonville, Denver tied for 1. Chicago would be 2. I'd probably put Minnesota at 3. Then I would go Giants. Then I would go See, I keep forgetting about the Raiders because I just keep forgetting that they have a coach right now and they're in the playoffs.
Yeah.
The Raiders would probably be 1, 2. I agree. I would put the Raiders at number 1 because of Derek Carr. They still have some holes, man. And to be honest with you, they kind of got lucky in a lot of this, but Derek Carr's played his mind out. He's played out of his mind. I'd put him number 1. Let me ask you this now. Filling these jobs, let's go through this real quick and then we'll move on to Sunday. Give me some people that you think fit really well with some of these jobs. I'm not going to call it, just pick and choose if you thought about a team and a name.
Okay, so obviously I'm a big Jags fan. So Jacksonville, I think the best fits would be, and I'm going to go GM coach with this because obviously the 2 coaches I'm going to say, they're going to bring their own GM in. This would be a fire-balky situation. I think the whole rumor that Peterson and Ed Dodds might be a package, Ed Dodds with the Colts, obviously. I think that's a solid fit. I've talked about Peterson for a month now, ever since Urban got fired. I love that. I also think Leftwich would be a solid choice. Leftwich worries me with the whole situation with Brady and Arians, but I also forget Leftwich was with the Arians back in Pittsburgh. So he's been around the block for a while. I do feel like he probably has a big grasp on how to build an offense. And I believe he'd bring Adrian Wilson, is the rumors with him, who was with Steve Keim and the Cardinals, another solid GM choice. Those would be my two favorites for Jacksonville. I also think Ed Dodge and Peterson work in Chicago as well. I think that would be a very good fit there with Fields. I think they need to go a little offensive minded. I think Dodge would be a good GM. If you want to talk about some bargain bin kind of stuff, you learned that well from Ballard. I'm going to get into Ballard a little later when we talk about that game, but you learned that a little bit with him. I think those two would also be solid fits in Chicago. When it comes to New York and Minnesota, I like Flores. We talked about that. Those are my two favorites there. I think Jim Harbaugh, if you can get him with the Raiders, you swing immediately. Like, that's a swing you take.
Yes.
But, again, he might end up being posturing, try to stay at Michigan. So that's one of the things you got to look at. For Denver, I'm really not sure. That's one of the ones I'm blanking on. I know Flores is a top pick. I can't just feel Flores for everyone. But those are the kind of the names that I have circulating, So it's like, that's the names, but the really good fits I like is obviously Peterson, either with the two young quarterbacks. I also like like I said, I do like Leftwich with the Jags. And honestly, Kellen Moore is the one that kind of goes out. I don't know where Kellen Moore really fits, to be honest.
I don't know where he fit either. Like, I don't know where I think that Fields and Dak have some similarities where, like, I think you could put him in Chicago mainly because of their body style. They're both Dak pretty big quarterbacks. Like, I could see him in Chicago, but one thing I want to say about the Broncos job real quick, I keep hearing stuff about, like, them looking at, like, Flores would be the like, take him out. He would be the one that wouldn't. But, like, I've heard Dan Quinn, and listen, I think Dan Quinn, first of all, as a Falcons fan, I love Dan Quinn. A lot of Falcons fans don't like Dan Quinn because of how things end. I think Dan Quinn's awesome. I think he's kind of got unfair treatment towards the end. I think he had to make some firings that he didn't want to make and all that stuff. Dan Quinn's awesome, and I do think he deserves another shot at a head coach. Just Denver shouldn't be it. Denver needs to go something different unless they go Flores. They can't just go the Fangio route again. Flores is different from Fangio. He's a different style leader. He's more of a leader than Fangio. So I think he'd be good. Let me just give you some. I have main thing I wrote down here: Peterson to Chicago. I love Peterson to Chicago. I think that's an awesome fit. I also love Peterson to you guys. I came out and said that a couple of weeks ago. I really think Peterson is perfect because I equate Jacksonville and Chicago very similar. Now, I think that you guys have the better situation because of the cap space, that you guys have way more cap space where you can really come in there and spend hell of money.
And the one too. Like, I know it's kind of like a shot out because the draft's a little weaker, and we'll talk about that on our draft show starting next week. But the one, it's still the number one pick. Like,
it's still the number one pick. You have so much flexibility with cap, and then you have Trevor Lawrence, who I do like more than Fields, but overall, I really think they're similar. So that's why I would fill Peterson into both. I like Leftwich with Jacksonville and only Jacksonville, but it worries me a little bit. I like him. I would swing for it if I was Khan, but it worries me a little bit just with the whole Brady thing. How much does he do and all that stuff? But I do like him there in Jacksonville. In Minnesota and Denver and New York, all three of those, their first choice should be Flores. I think every single one of those, Flores should be their first call, especially New York. New York needs something like some accountability. And I think he would take some accountability, but not in this stupid way that Joe Judge did. Joe Judge was taking too much accountability, and he was putting off an aura where it was just stupid and nonsense. Like, Joe Judge made a fool of himself towards the end. So not like that, but Flores would do really well there, I think. When it comes to the Raiders, it's Harbaugh all the way. Harbaugh fits everything that the Raiders want to do. I wish I could be different on what you said there, but I can't. That's just the best place to go. Other than that, man, The one other thing is if Denver wanted to try and do something sneaky and maybe hire like the Packers offensive coordinator to
Hackett.
try,
Yeah.
Hackett to try and lure, Rodgers in that way. The one thing that worries me about that is you're taking a big risk because I don't know how much Hackett actually does. I think LaFleur is doing pretty much most of the stuff there.
Yeah, let me put this out there with the whole Hackett thing. Hackett
Yeah,
was the Jags offensive coordinator when Bortles was there. Let me
yeah,
just say, we didn't run the same offense that LaFleur and Rodgers runs at all.
exactly,
But now,
exactly.
I mean, Hackett probably can evolve and calls the plays
Yeah,
with LaFleur and knows that scheme and system, but that's not necessarily his scheme and system. If you
yeah.
know, he's not a
Well,
Shanahan guy. If you know what I'm
no,
saying.
no, not at all. That was my thing, and I saw they're interviewing him. That's why I said that it would be
Who,
a
Denver?
very,
Denver's
very
interviewing like 9 people.
yeah.
I
It
will
would
throw
be
this out there with the Kellen Moore thing. Denver's interesting because they don't have a quarterback, but Denver
yep.
does have like almost Dallas's exact weaponry. It's just they
They
don't have a
do.
quarterback.
That's
So they
true.
could run that scheme very well. The other thing I did want to mention that I completely forgot about until now, I forgot to write it down when I saw it on Twitter. The Dolphins interviewing Mike McDaniel, that's the one that kind of makes sense to me. Because what you can do with Tua is if you run that Shanahan scheme, you just roll Tua out and make him be safe the whole time, and you rely
Yeah,
on the run game. Now they're going to have to find a running back, and they're going to have to get stronger on the interior. But that does make sense to me if you want to look at an offense that you're going to build around Tua, since that's clearly what they're doing. Like I said, it would still worry me to just tie my hitch and wagon to the Dolphins. But Mike McDaniel would make some sense there, in my opinion, just because of the offense he runs. He's under Shanahan, and
yeah.
all of Shanahan's guys would be gone then.
They would have to bring in a veteran DC
Oh,
because
for sure, yes.
that's a young. I mean, it would be a must because that's a very tough job for a rookie head coach to take on. I like the thought process though. I do like the offense, and if you are going full on Tua, which they are, that would make sense. I understand that. So, but they would have to go heavy veteran DC. Yeah, I mean, all of the main names you're going to hear are the ones that we said. There are going to be other names that sneak in there, like different offensive
I mean,
coordinators
do
and
you have a
stuff.
place? Do you have a place? Because he's interviewing at every job, I believe.
Dable,
No, well, yeah, Dable. I think if Peterson goes to Jacksonville, I think Dable just goes to Chicago. That's my opinion on that. I think
yeah,
that would be the perfect place. I also think Dable's sneaky for the Texans if it opens up because Dable was with Easterby and
yeah,
Casario all that time down there. The
yeah.
other thing I was going to say is he's interviewing everywhere. Do you have a place you like Todd Bowles, or do you? I just kind of feel like Todd Bowles is just your best DC, and he needs to stay at DC, or either
Yeah.
he needs to wait till Arians retires if Leftwich takes a job. You know what I mean?
Yeah, see, that's my thing. I like Todd Bowles. I love Todd Bowles. I just don't, for these teams that we're talking about, I just don't like that style of coach for these teams.
It's too much of a Jets organization thing for Todd Bowles to go. Todd Bowles needs to go somewhere that kind of already has a very good offense in place. Some people would say Minnesota, but that's more the same. You're basically hiring a Zimmer equivalent.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah. It
yeah,
doesn't make
Todd
sense.
Bowles, he needs a very specific fit. You're right
Yeah,
on that.
he does. And if I was him, I would wait because he's got it made right there, right now.
And I think
And
he's
I
making
get
like
it.
$3 million a year. I mean, be the best defensive coordinator in the league. I
Yeah,
mean, you're good. Don't blow your last. This is going to be his last
has to
opportunity
be.
wherever he goes. I
And
think that's what Dan Quinn's doing. I don't know if Dan Quinn's going to take a job. Dan
no,
Quinn's very smart because all these Dallas defenders are young, so he's going to look good the next 3-4 years, no matter
yeah.
what. He can be very picky about where he wants to go. He
Oh
turned
yeah,
down that Jacksonville interview. I would have done it too.
yeah,
Very smart
definitely.
on his part.
No doubt. That's the smart thing to do. You don't see a lot of people think like that, a lot of these coaches, because they're so thirsty to prove everybody wrong. That's the smart way to think, dude, because you only get one more chance like this. You really do. One thing I want to talk to you about Dable to Chicago. I just think what are your thoughts on this? I think Chicago needs to go veteran head coach, man. Not veteran head coach. I think they need to go a retread. I think they need to go someone that has been a head coach like a Doug Peterson. I worry about them doing what they did with Nagy already. Now, I understand Dable's different and he's had real success. And you can really credit Dable for developing Josh Allen into what he is today. And that's why it's different than Nagy, because Nagy, even though he was the one that was, Mahomes' guy all year, and it was his job to develop. Come on, that was Reed. Reed developed Mahomes. Mahomes also might have already been developed, and he just had to wait. I worry. I think Chicago needs to do something different this year, even though I do like Dable. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, see, I feel the same way. I felt Peterson should be the number one for Jacksonville, but if we're going to have a fallback, I think Leftwich is a solid fallback,
Yeah.
honestly. I think Trevor could run the Tom Brady offense they run down there. That's kind of how I see that.
Okay.
Whereas I think Fields would run Dayball's Bills offense probably to a T as well.
Okay.
Fields runs around a lot like Allen does, and he can be effective doing it. That's kind of where I like to connect it. I think Peterson should be the number one for both of those, but whichever one doesn't get him, I guess if you go new young offensive name, I mean, I'll tell you this, it'd be better than going Bill O'Brien like the Jags are going to interview for. That's a retread head coach no one should want a part of.
For sure.
So I completely agree. I just think Dayball fits well with Fields on his offense the way I do Leftwich fits well with Trevor on that offense. I think if you don't get Peterson, I think you probably should just go the young head coach develop the quarterback route because that's the next best thing. So that's kind of where I was at on that.
What about Peterson in Minnesota?
I don't like that at all. I think he needs a young guy. I like the two, unless the Raiders were to go off. Like if you want to put somebody behind Jim Harbaugh, I think that Peterson would fit well with Las Vegas. But I think Peterson's got to go to one of these young quarterbacks. I think you heard him talk about it. You know how McCarthy did like the media tour after his year off, and he was all about analytics. Well, Peterson's media tour after has been all about developing young quarterbacks. I think he's going to go to one of the two young quarterback spots. That's just my opinion on it. That's where I think he's going to end up. He's going to end up in Jacksonville or Chicago to me.
I can see that. No, I agree. I think Peterson's a really good head coach. I think this is the time to get him, and I think one lucky team, whether it's Jacksonville, Chicago, or someone else, will get him. So these are all things we obviously are going to keep our eyes on as we go. Again, a lot of coaches are out. A lot of hirings are going to happen. It's going to be fascinating to see. And then some things still have to play out. Like, again, if the Raiders win a playoff game,
Bisaccia should be in,
in Cincinnati, I don't know how you fire Bisaccia. Like, maybe I don't know. Maybe you don't. Maybe you do. Like,
do the Cardinals get blown out and somehow Cliff gets fired?
Let's move right into that in a second here. We're gonna move into these games. Let's first move into what happened on Sunday night. Then we'll talk about that game here. Sunday night was one of the craziest games I've witnessed in a Week 18 game or just in an NFL game. I mean, dude, just because of what was going on and how everybody knew all damn day if these two teams tied, what could happen. And the fact that the Chargers were down 14, they were down 12, they were down 14. They somehow tie it up. They convert a 4th and 21 by just a amazing throw by Herbert. All of that was incredible. I want to get straight to it. And that is, do you think Brandon Staley calling the timeout fucked over, excuse my language, his team?
I don't believe that was the case. I think the Raiders are going to try to win either way. I think what Brandon Staley fucked over his team doing is not being able to stop a run all year. I think that's what actually fucked over the team. I mean, number one, his excuse was he went to jumbo personnel to stop the run, and then they didn't stop the run on 3rd and 4. He didn't stop the run.
When everybody in that stadium and everybody watching from home knew they were going to run the ball, dude.
Yeah, the Raiders were going to put it in the air. The Raiders were in the situation where they were going to win or tie no matter what. Staley needed to be playing for that tie at that point, and he could not stop that one run play. He couldn't stop a run all year. Let's be real. They've been the worst run team defense in the league. Like, they're bad at it. Staley kind of cost them in that. Also, this whole going for it on 4th down all the time thing, he's got to cool it on that. He gave up a free field goal to him earlier in the game going on that 4th and 2. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to give it both. I'm going to give it both sides. Everyone's all hype about it when he made that 4th and 10 on the drive that tied the game. He shouldn't have went for it then.
No, he shouldn't have.
Let's be real. He shouldn't have. If they hadn't got that 4th and 10 on their own 20, the game is over. the game's over.
Yep.
The Raiders would have kicked a field goal, it would have been 2 scores.
Yep.
But he went for it and he got it. So nobody's talking about that. No, he shouldn't have went for it then either. You had 3 timeouts, you punt the ball away. But his abysmal run defense wouldn't have been able to stop him. That's on Staley. Staley is a defensive guy. He learned everything from Fangio. He hasn't been in the league long. I understand he wants to be new school analytics guy. He's got to learn to not go for these fourths when it's going to hurt his team that bad. And he's got to get his defense playing like he had the defense playing in the Rams. Yeah. You don't have Ramsey and Donald out there on this team. You do have Derwin James, but you've got to get this run defense figured out. That he's got to do something about it.
Bro, it's absolute recklessness the way he coaches. And I don't want to sit up here and sound like a old man that's like, I hate analytics, because I like analytics. Look, I factor in analytics. I think it's legit. But I also factor in just the pure parts of the game, like just the emotions of the game, and also just the sheer common sense, bro. Like, I understand you have this really good quarterback, and it feels like he can convert anything. I get that. But at some point, dude, you got to understand you're being stupid. And also, if you are going to go for it, what the hell are you doing running Austin Eckler straight up the middle? If you are going to go for it at that point, run it with your 6'5" quarterback. Do something different. Like, I cannot stand these coaches that first make that stupid idea to go for it and then go 7 yards back to come 5 yards forward. It pisses me off so much, dude. I can't. The play call was atrocious, but to begin with, the idea of going for it was recklessness. It was recklessness, and he cost him the game, bro. He cost him the game in that facet, and he cost him the game in his defense, and it's a real issue, Shawn, because it's his first year. It's not a problem. He's not going to get fired or anything. He's got Justin Herbert. But if we started this show a year ago, bro, and we were doing coming into the season, which teams with a rookie head coach are most likely to make the playoffs or should make the playoffs, it'd be the Chargers. Mm-hmm. I mean, let's not get it twisted here, Shawn. That roster is stacked. Name me another roster other than the teams that are in the playoffs that have Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, Austin Eckler, Justin Herbert, and then also Joey Bosa, Derwin James, one of the best offensive lines in the league with Rashawn Slater. You cannot have the season that you had on defense with you being a defensive-minded coach, dude. He's got to get that fixed, and he's got to get that fixed quick. He's a very soft-spoken guy. He's a very smart guy, so a lot of people like him. A lot of people think this guy's really smart. He fooled me, and I still do think he's smart. But I was over here saying, I think this guy, I can't believe the Falcons didn't hire this guy. This guy's amazing. Towards the end of the season, I still think he's a good coach, but I'm starting to see he's got some serious flaws that he has to work on.
Yeah, he's a little bit of a media darling. Like, he got the analytics and media on his side, like that community. Like I said, I've always had a little. You can remember in the beginning of the year, I've always been a little cold on him. A defense like he has. The Rams, you got Donald, you got Ramsey. Yeah. I mean, they had John Johnson when he was there. They have all these players.
Well, what's crazy is that the Rams defense has fallen off. They're nowhere near as good as they were. So I thought, maybe it is him. Maybe he is the reason that defense was so good. But you don't see that, and I get it. He doesn't have those players there, but he still has some really good players. It should not be this bad.
Yeah, he has Derwin and Kenneth Murray. You ought to be able to tackle a running back, but it's strange, man. It's strange how they do that. I really think they're going to have to heavily invest in the D-line in the offseason. I think they're going to need a 3-tech and a nose tackle to try to take care of some of this run issues they have, because you can't be having people run on you this whole time and then Herbert throws 60 sometimes. That's not how it's going to work. You're going to get 8 alive because your defense is going to be on the field over and over like that. They're going to have to fix it. Like I said, I'm a little cold on Staley. I'm not a big Staley guy. I think he probably still can turn it around just because his quarterback's so talented. Telesco is such a good GM. I mean, they have players everywhere. There's no way they shouldn't be in the playoffs. Let's be real. They should have locked up a playoff spot 2-3 weeks ago. There's no way they shouldn't have been in the playoffs this year. They're going to have to pay Mike Williams, or somebody else will, because he is good. Mike Williams is so good at football. It's going to be an interesting time for Staley. He's catching a lot of blame, as he should. We're going to have to see how he comes out, whether he adjusts his style. And when we start doing off-season previews, we're going to definitely be talking a lot of defenders to come help that run defense when we talk to them, because their offense is really set, especially if they bring Williams back.
Yep. And let's honestly, it's not just it's a disservice and unfortunate for football fans that Herbert's not in the playoffs, that we're not watching Herbert play in the playoffs this weekend. That's
so we get Big Ben's last ride.
Yeah, we're about to watch the Chiefs put up 50 on the Steelers, and the Steelers score 7 points instead. It sucks. And we're talking a lot about this past game because it's the most recent game. But let's be real. That team should have never lost to Houston. You don't lose to Houston. This game doesn't even matter. You're in the playoffs. There were so many mistakes down the end of the stretch and in the beginning that you want to chalk it up as a rookie head coach, and you hope that's what it can chalk up to. We'll have to find out, because if not, that roster is way too talented. That should be an 11 to 12 win team next year, Shawn. An 11 to 12 win team without a doubt. Let's move on to the other game that was happening in the afternoon before a game that felt like a home game for the 49ers. I mean, boy, were those 49ers fans loud in that arena. But instead, it was a home game for the Rams. Didn't feel like it, but it was. They got up 17-0. Sean McVay was running into the end zone celebrating with his teammates, with his players. And it looked like he was finally going to pull that monkey off his back and beat his friend, I guess, or his counterpart in Sean McVay. And then just like that, Jimmy G absolutely outduels Matthew Stafford in the second half. Deebo Samuel shows that he is the biggest wild card in the NFL. And the 49ers come back and once again beat the Rams. What are your thoughts on that game?
Yeah, speaking of receivers going to get paid, Deebo Samuel's going to make some money because he is a beast in the run game and the pass game. I mean, hell, I think they could use him in the pass game more than they do, as good as he is. They honestly underuse him in the pass game, in my opinion. But the way that game turned out, Shanahan came out in the second half, and Shanahan did what Shanahan does. They ran the ball like 10 straight times. Yeah. And after that, they just started bullying them the whole game, and it became the same thing you always see during a Niners-Rams game. The Niners come out and bully them, and the game's over. It's weird. Aaron Donald never has like an impact on these Niner games. It's strange for one of the greatest players we've ever seen. Yep. But he got swallowed up in that second half. Jimmy G made some key throws he needed to make. Props to Jimmy G with the hurt hand. This might be his last ride with the 49ers, but he's definitely making a bang. At least they made the playoffs here. That was a big-time game and a must-win situation for Shanahan and the Niners. They came through. Jimmy came through, and more importantly, that run game came through. Defense shut it out. We talked about, do we trust Stafford? He is shaky when the pressure's on, that's for sure. God. He is definitely a shaky quarterback, and that's got to worry you. If they didn't draw the Cardinals, I think they'd be in deep trouble in the first round. They still are in a bit of trouble, but I think that's going to be a battle of who do you trust more there. It's going to be something else to see because Stafford just came out and just didn't play well in a big game for him.
Matthew Stafford worries me, bro.
Oh, yeah.
Big time.
You didn't worry about him too much last week.
I didn't. I'm worried. I'm big time worried now. I think that he can win this game. I mean, I think he better win this game. Let me be honest with you. But even if he does, they're not going into Green Bay because the 4-5 gets the 1, right? Isn't that
no? I think it's literally lowest seed.
Oh, that's how it is with it's the lowest team.
It's lowest seed goes, yeah. That's how they do it based off the winners.
Okay, so it could be the 49ers if they beat the Cowboys.
Yeah, because that's how like those 7 and 9 teams like that are the 4 seed. I think somehow ends up not playing that
That-
or whatever. I don't know
That's
if it's by
right.
record or by seed. I have to look at it.
No, I
But
think
it's the
it's by
lowest. Yeah, it's the
yeah.
lowest seed.
Okay, that's different then. That might help them because they're not beating the Packers. They might not even beat the Cardinals, but I want to just transition to this because we're going to get into this whole preview because I think the most interesting game on the slate this weekend is the 49ers Cowboys. I think it's a fascinating game, bro.
The networks went crazy when that happened. They
They
were so
went
happy.
nuts, bro. And I think it's an awesome game because if you're Dak Prescott, you better not lose to Jimmy G. I don't care. It's not losing to the 49ers. Dak, you better not lose to Jimmy G, bro. If you lose to Jimmy G, everything I've been saying about you is true. That you're not elite, you're only good. You better not lose to Jimmy G. We'll get into that when we do our game preview later this week, our playoff preview. That's just something I wanted to lay the table with. I want to ask you this, bro, because this is something we're going to debate about more too. Who has more pressure in this Monday night ESPN game? Cardinals, Rams. Is it Cliff or is it Stafford?
Oh, that's so tough. I think I have to go. Oh God, see that is a tough question. You got me there on that one. That's good.
I'll tell you right now, it's Stafford. I
Yeah,
mean,
see, here's my thing with Cliff. Is Watt and Hopkins playing? Because they were both getting activated.
I
Because
think
if they're at full strength, Cliff's kind of got to watch it because they choked this division away, but he can lean on injuries. If they both come back, you're kind of like, okay, that's two of your best dudes
I
back.
get that.
The thing on Monday though, you're right about Stafford. They traded all this for you, and you can't go further than Jared Goff.
That's
That's
my
tough,
thing.
especially against a team that I know they beat you once this year, but you have owned in recent history. That's tough right there. So I do think you're right. It's Stafford by a little bit, but Cliff don't have that contract yet. Cliff
No, he
hasn't been
doesn't.
extended yet. So he's got to feel a little bit of pressure. No matter what, Stafford has the contract, and it isn't like the Rams are going to have the ammo to move off of him.
No.
He's just going to get blasted in the media and by people like us that talk about sports. Cliff might actually be going for his job right now. So that's the one thing that I have on that.
So this is my thing though with Cliff. Like Cliff is definitely under some fire because he didn't get the contract yet, but realistically, man, Cliff has gotten better. And like, okay, 2019, they went 5-10-1, 2020, 8-8, 2021, 11-6. Like, he has gotten better every single year. That's what you want to see in your head coach. And for my thing is now I understand expectations change as the year go on. But if we remember, the expectation coming into the year was Cliff, you have to make the playoffs for you and Steve Keim to stay. Well, you made the playoffs. Again, I understand you started so hot that expectations change, but still, those were the expectations just to make the playoffs. Bro, Stafford, Jared Goff, the last 2 years has won a first round playoff game. He has won a playoff game. Not only that, in last year, he was actually keeping it close with with the Packers for the first half, and then they came out and blew him out in the second half. But Jared Goff has done everything and some that Matthew Stafford has done. If he comes out with Odell, and I understand Robert Woods is in there, but with Odell, and with Cooper Kupp, and with Cam Akers back, and Sony Michel, and Jalen Ramsey, and Aaron Donald, and all these guys, and he can't beat Kyler Murray in his first ever time in the playoffs, that's bad, bro.
Yeah.
That's real bad.
Yeah, you sold me. That is, and plus Stafford's never won a big game in his life. I mean, how
Never.
many has he actually been in? He's probably like 0 for 4. Like he's never won a big game in his life. You're right about that.
I mean, I could say you might be right, dude. Like we know how these owners are. Cliff could get fired. Did something just happen?
Yeah, no, my light was falling.
Okay, I was like, holy crap, your face scared the hell out of me.
No, it's like no,
I
my
thought your
light was falling,
computer
so I
was
was
about to
catching it.
fall on your head or something. Cliff could get fired, man. These owners are crazy. I mean, these owners are actually crazy. Like Cliff could get fired. I just think it would be it would be unreasonable to fire him since he has gotten better every single year. Now, next year is when you have to say, okay, Cliff, we got to really do something in the playoffs. But that's my thoughts.
Yeah, no, completely agree. And I honestly, I'd extend Cliff even if he lost. I just know that not having the contract does put a lot of pressure on people's backs. That's for sure. But yeah, you're right. Stafford's the one we got to worry about. We're going to talk a lot about that game in our breakdown on when we record it on Friday.
Yeah.
So that's gonna be a big time conversation. I was going to ask, do you want to move on to the other choke artist of the day?
The other what?
The other choke artist of the day. We already talked about the Chargers.
Go on that.
Huh?
Yeah, let's go. Do you want to start this or me?
I can start it off. That's fine.
Okay.
So we were talking about the Chargers losing, and they should have been in because they lost to the Texans the week before. Well, the Colts should have beat the Raiders and been in the week before too. But I mean, they were going into the worst team in the league, right? Everyone dressed as clowns. Wants the GM fired. Horrible team, hasn't won anything. You know, I'm a fan of them, and then they came out and got dominated. Got dominated the whole game. So that was just a tour de force, by the way, of the Jags. This playing their best game against the Colts, who haven't beat them in Jacksonville since 2014. So that's a good one. But you got to feel bad for Colts fans, and I kind of do, even though they're divisional rivals. You got to feel bad for them. I do. That's rough. What a rough way to go out. They come out, and Carson Wentz has a 4.4 QBR on the day. Rough day for him. Trevor played his best game. I mean, that was tough on the whole Wentz Reich era. That was just tough.
Oh, yeah.
So now you got these Colts fans freaking out. Then they had to watch Andrew Luck last night on the national championship coverage. What a sad time. I mean, I'm smiling now, but I really do feel bad for you Colts fans. The one team we're good against in the division is the Colts, for real. And you're the team I hate the least out of y'all. So that's just sad to watch. But I'm going to let you take over. I had to gloat for a second. I'm going to let you take over because I'm going to have an overarching point that I know you're not going to have that I want to bring up, even though we haven't discussed it. So you bring it up. You bring up what your thoughts, talk about Wentz and everything, and then I'm going to go into an overarching point that hasn't been brought up.
Yeah, I got you. First of all, best game I've seen Trevor play as a pro.
Exactly. Awesome. Yep. Very true.
Was awesome. That one throw where he bobbled it in the red zone, was throwing it up in the air like that. Marvin Jones went up and caught it. Absolutely elite level throw right there. Incredible game by him. I was very disappointed, Shawn. This one hurt me, bro. This one hurt me. You know the believer I am in Wentz.
I'm a believer in Wentz as well, so don't get it twisted. I know I'm doing a lot of joking. That's because I'm a Jags fan, but I believed in Wentz as well.
This one really hurt me. I have stood up for Wentz a lot. It's been tough at times because of the things, and this one really hurt me, especially when we see him have games like he did in Arizona on Christmas night, in Indianapolis against the Colts, and then they come out in this. And I do want to make sure that, and we haven't talked about this, so I might be off here, but I have a feeling maybe this is going to be your overarching point. But I do want to just say that this wasn't all on Wentz. Let me just put it this way. This wasn't all on Wentz. I mean, that offensive line got destroyed by y'all's defensive line. Destroyed. Now, Wentz made some terrible throws. He made some terrible decisions, but Jonathan Taylor wasn't really running the ball very well. The whole team did not play well at all. And it really hurts the Colts right now because you have all these fans saying you got to get rid of Wentz, but what are you going to do? Think about it a couple weeks ago, you were being talked about as the most dangerous team in the AFC, possibly someone that nobody wants to face. It was one bad game, and I also just want to point out that there's some things in the NFL that you just can't explain. This does not make up an excuse for anything, but there's just some things you can't explain. Like Sean McVay, one of the smartest coaches we've seen, he can't beat the 49ers. For some reason, the Titans could never beat Andrew Luck. Ever. For some reason, y'all can never win in Tennessee. And when I say y'all, I mean the Jaguars.
Since 2013.
Yep, since 2013. And for some reason, the Indianapolis Colts, whether it's with Phillip Rivers, whether it's with Andrew Luck, whether it's with Carson Wentz, they cannot win in Jacksonville. You just can't explain some of these things in the NFL. That's why it's so great. Week 18, there's nothing else to say. Carson Wentz let me down, but the whole Colts team let me down. It was a bad performance.
Yeah, it was a rough performance by them. Their O-line, which is usually great. I mean, our D-line dominated the whole
They had
day.
no
Just
time.
pressure everywhere. It was, I mean, Jonathan Taylor couldn't get loose. He got loose for about a 30-yard play where it was all him. He broke 2 tacklers and ran for 30 yards. It was a great defensive performance, and Trevor came to play. And we kind of milked the clock in the second half, just kicked field goals, just kept the lead. I'm going to make a point, though, that a lot of people don't want to say anything, and it's going to be unpopular for sure. So I'm going to go ahead and say this. When you're building a team, what's the most important positions? Quarterback, edge rusher, corner now, wide receiver now, and then you want to go like interior a little bit and everything. Ballard doesn't build his team right because he goes for these high character guys. They have 7 Pro Bowlers, right? Where are their Pro Bowlers? 2 interior O linemen. Buckner, which is important. Middle linebacker, which isn't a premium anymore. Kenny Moore, who's a slot corner, and Jonathan Taylor, who's a running back. I'm blanking on the other one. Ballard gets all this credit for being this great GM. He doesn't build his team where he needs to be built at. That's an opinion that nobody really throws out there. But I think Ballard's slightly overrated. Everybody treats him like he's the god king of GMing. He's not. He doesn't have the quarterback right. He hasn't yet.
I want you to see this, bro. Look what I wrote right there. Colts have roster issues. Like,
that's great,
bro. Like, that is so awesome. You put that out. Like, I wrote that right there. Like, you're keep going because you're spot on.
Yeah, and we didn't talk about that at all before the show. Like I said, I didn't tell Kayvon that I was thinking this at all.
Yeah.
I love Ballard. Now, don't get me wrong. Everyone's like, oh, you have Balky. I would take Ballard in a heartbeat. But Ballard has built that team incorrectly. And I think it's a little bit of Ballard's little character things. He has these high character guys. They got punched in the mouth by a bunch of dudes that like just came out to play. That's what it is. He has these high character guys to a detriment. Their receiving core doesn't have an alpha dude. And a lot of receivers have those kind of mentality things. Pittman's solid. The rest of them, they can all be replaced. That's the case. Every one of them. Wentz has his own issues. I mean, that's kind of the case with Carson back there. But on defense, they were getting punked. And I know their defense is supposed to be solid, but you can't have your middle linebacker and your D tackle be your best players like that. When Donald is the man up with the Rams, and Buckner's great. But they always have Leonard Floyd and all them coming off the edge as well. The Colts just don't have edge rushers. They haven't for a while.
Yeah.
They don't have corners on the outside. I mean, Kenny Moore, who's their best corner on the inside, the last 2 weeks has been getting torched. Yeah. Hunter Renfrow destroyed him for the Raiders week. And then every time Treadwell or Marvin Jones was on him, Trevor threw it over his head because he's a smaller corner. It's something that Ballard's going to have to address. He's going to have to finally just go out and get some dogs because every team has a bunch of high character dudes. They also have a bunch of dogs out there that AB lasted for 9 years on the Steelers. AB is as crazy as they can come, but AB could play. That was the issue. They just don't have enough dudes out there that's just some dogs to go do it. I'm glad you wrote that down because I feel like I'm on an island about that. I'm not saying Ballard isn't a top 5 GM, but I'm saying everybody acts like he's the best out there, and I just don't believe it.
It's a phenomenal point by you, and it's so funny I wrote that down. And to be honest with you, you know what, to add on top of it, the one thing that Ballard has like really wanted to do with the way he builds his team is he likes to build it from the ends. Like he wants the line to be good, right? Like, to be honest, the offensive line has holes. They have issues. The left tackle, like they have holes, dude. Like that. So even someone that is so in on building it from the line out like that, that even has issues. So I'm with you, bro. I'm with you. And this took a hit to him. Honestly, Frank Wright took a little bit of a hit here. I still love Frank Wright. And one thing I do want to hit on with the receivers, those receivers didn't show up. Michael Pittman dropped a couple of balls. Campbell dropped a ball. Carson Wentz threw a bomb to Campbell. If he caught that there inside the 20-yard line, he dropped that. Like, the whole team didn't show up, but the overarching point that you make is really, really spot on that not many people want to make, and I hope people listen to this show and hear that. And that's Chris Ballard might not be as great of a GM as everyone thinks. Still a good one. Still a good one. But
Oh yeah, I'd take him tomorrow. It's just everyone treats him like he's the greatest
The best.
GM of all time. I mean,
Yeah.
really, that's
Yeah.
how the media treats him. It's crazy to me.
When they really haven't won a playoff game in a long time. So I think that's it for the show. I think it's a good show today.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Anything else you want to hit on?
No, just make sure you follow us at Money Down Pod on Twitter. Make sure you get our picks out there. We're going to be coming back recapping the college football playoff, and then that's probably going to become our draft show next week.
Yep.
This is the time of year for us NFL fans that don't have a playoff team. It's all about hope until here the next season starts. So it's a good time for that. We're going to be breaking down everything. Make sure you follow us. We're going to have a playoff breakdown at the end of the week that you should follow along. I'm at Dumpster Fire Fan. Kayvon's going to do his little spiel. He's at Kayvon_sports.
Yep.
So, yeah, we're good to go today.
No doubt. It was a great show. Good work, Shawn. Listen, the playoff preview is going to be awesome later this week. We're going to get it. We already gave you guys a little sneak peek of who has most pressure. We're going to get into that plus so much more. Burrow versus Carr. Brady versus Hurts. Like, could the Eagles pull off a miracle here? Like, how worried are we about the Bucs right now? Can the Titans actually win or go to the Super Bowl? Like, do the Steelers have a chance? Could it be one of those actual underdog stories where Big Ben has this John Elway type moment? Like, there's so much we're going to get into in this playoff preview. It's going to be great. We'll be back on Monday to break down everything that happened. And then, like Shawn said, then we'll start to really get into some draft stuff for people like us whose teams are not in it anymore. So follow along. We appreciate all of y'all's support at Money Down Pod on Twitter. Let us know your thoughts. Follow us on, wherever you watch it, iTunes, Spotify. Give us the 5-star review. Please let us know what you want us to talk about. And also, if you have draft questions, this is the time to start putting it in. As simple as, what does our team need to draft? What do you think about my team drafting this player? Get specific. We will answer them.
Yeah. Also with the draft questions, make sure we do watch closely, everybody. But we don't know I know the Jags a lot better than a lot of people is going to know it just because I follow them so close. Yeah. Make sure you give us some. Who do you think are some team needs for you, so we can really pay attention to that? Yeah. Because some people might we could box score watch a little bit, but we didn't get to break down each and every play that everyone made on all these teams. So some good team needs would be great too. If you're a Lions fan, if you're just one of the Carolina Panthers fans, give us some good team needs so we can base that on to be as accurate as we can for you guys, because we pay attention, but we can't pay attention to literally every player on every team. No
doubt. Well said, and we will answer those questions. So I promise you, especially with this draft stuff, we will get deep into that. So let us know your thoughts. Once again, that is Shawn White. I am Kayvon. Follow us on Twitter at Money Down Pod. We will talk to you later in the week for NFL Wildcard Preview. Talk to you then.